Okay, you guys, I'm back. We're going to go over our 4 practice problems that are going to get taped on page 32 of your composition book. So let's go ahead and get started. In January, the students in the class read 72 books. In February, they read 56 books. What was the percent decrease in the number of books read from January to February? So when you set up this problem, the reason why I underline percent decrease is because that's going to help me to figure out which number is the original. So remember, in step 1, you had to find the difference between the two numbers. So we've got 72, and we're going to take away 56 because that's our smaller number, and that difference is 16. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of abbreviate difference. So step 2 is you set up and solve. So again, you take the difference over the original. Now, this word problem is easy because we're talking about January and February. Well, obviously, January comes first in time. So the original is going to be 72. The other clue that we can use is that word percent decrease, that little phrase right there, because that tells me that it went down over time. So obviously, that means the original number has to be larger than the newest number, okay? And then we're going to times that by 100. And remember what I said earlier, that you need to round it to the nearest tenth. So in this case, it's going to be 22.2%. And that's my answer. That's all you need to do. So again, you're going to take difference over original times 100. Okay, pause this if you need to finish copying, but I'm going to move on to the next problem. Okay. In 1992, the population in a town was 8,000. So here's 92. And then in 1997, the population was 14,000. What is the percent increase? So again, this is telling me that the change had gone up over in time because it increased. So what is the population? Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead and take our problem and set it up. Step 1, find the difference. So you're going to do 14,000 and you're going to subtract 8,000. And you get 6,000. So that's my difference. Step 2, set up and solve. Difference, which is 6,000 over the original. And again, it increased. So in this case, 8,000 is my original. And you times it by 100. In this case, it would be 75%. That's a huge increase. So just in 5 years, this town's population has increased by 75%. Which again, if you're making plans for the future, you need to know this because they have to make sure they have enough schools. They've got to make sure the infrastructure is good. Okay, so again, if you need to go ahead and pause this, you can do that, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next problem. All right, now let's look at 2% errors. So in this case, Alex measured the length of an item to be 3 7/10 centimeters. The actual length is 3.5. So they want to know what is Alex's percent error. So here's that actual that's going to help you to solve. So again, problem is the same. Find the difference. So 3.7 minus 3.5, and you get 0 and 2/10. Step 2, set up and solve. So it's difference over the actual. Again, the word problem, the actual is 3.5, and then times it by 100. And then that's where you're going to go ahead and get your percent error. And in this case, he is off by approximately, we're going to round to the nearest tenth, 5 7/10%. And that is your answer. Okay, so again, go ahead and pause if you need to go ahead and copy the rest of this down. I'm going to clear this out, and we're going to move on to the last problem. Okay, in this case, John measured the volume of a bottle as 27 ounces. The actual volume is 24. What is John's percent of error? So you notice this really is not that difficult of a concept. Step 1, find the difference. We're going to do 27 minus 24, which is 3. Step 2, we're going to set up and solve. The difference in this case over the actual is 24, and we're going to times it by 100. And our answer is 12.5%. 12.5%. Ooh, that's pretty bad. He needs to do a little bit better. Okay. So those are your 4 practice problems. If you had already did those problems and checked them, if you're wrong, just kind of make sure and look at what you might have done. Again, the biggest problem I see is students don't use the actual number, or they don't use the number came first in time. Okay, so your next step after this is you're going to have a worksheet that has some practice problems on it. So I need you to go ahead and work on those. You may have time to finish them today. If not, we will finish them up first thing tomorrow. And then we'll talk about when our unit test is on percents. So I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.